It was a cold Friday night in Maple Creek, a quiet little town where nothing bad was ever supposed to happen. The rain had stopped hours ago, leaving the streets wet and glistening under flickering yellow streetlights. The air smelled of damp earth and pine. At the end of Willow Street stood a two-story wooden house, cozy, calm, and ordinary. It belonged to Anna Miller, a 29-year-old nurse who had just finished a long, exhausting night shift at the hospital. Her tired eyes burned, her scrubs were wrinkled, and she could already imagine collapsing on her bed. As she parked her car in the driveway, she sighed in relief. Home at last. But the moment she stepped inside, something didn't feel right. The house was dark and still, but the kitchen light, a small bulb above the sink, was on. Anna frowned. She was sure she'd turned off all the lights before leaving that morning. Probably forgot again, she muttered under her breath, trying to calm herself. She hung her coat on the rack, dropped her keys on the counter, and locked the door behind her. The familiar click of the bolt made her feel a little safer. But before she could take a full breath, creak. A soft, dragging sound came from upstairs. Anna froze. Her heart stuttered. She tilted her head slightly, listening. Another faint creak echoed through the ceiling. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling slightly. "Is someone there?" Silence. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the staircase that led up to her darkened hallway. Every instinct screamed for her to leave, but reason argued back. It's an old house. It settles. It's nothing. Grabbing her phone, she turned on the flashlight and slowly climbed the stairs. Each step groaned under her weight. At the top, the hallway stretched before her like a tunnel of darkness. She checked every room. Bedroom empty, bathroom empty, guest room empty. Even the closet was just filled with coats and the faint scent of cedar. Anna laughed nervously. "See? Nothing. You're just tired." Downstairs again, she poured herself a glass of wine and turned on the TV. The light from the screen flickered across the room, giving her living room a strange, ghostly glow. The news anchor's voice droned in the background. Open quote, "Police are searching for an escaped inmate from the Maple Creek Correctional Facility. The suspect, John Keller, 34, was last seen wearing a grey hoodie and dark jeans. Keller is considered extremely dangerous. Residents are urged to lock their doors and remain vigilant." Close quote. Anna's hand froze around the wine glass. The prison was only a few miles away. Suddenly, thud! The sound came from directly above her, her bedroom. The glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor, red wine splattering across the tiles like blood. Her body tensed. She could hear her pulse in her ears. This wasn't the creak of old wood. This was deliberate, a footstep. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she nearly screamed. It was a message from her friend Mark, checking if she got home safely. Anna typed back quickly with trembling fingers. Open quote, "Hey, I think someone's in my house." Close quote. The three dots appeared, he was typing back, then disappeared. No reply. The TV suddenly went static. The sound crackled, loud and sharp. Anna turned toward it, confused. Then, click, the TV went black. The entire house plunged into silence. She stood frozen in the dark, barely breathing. Her mind raced. Call 911, run, hide. Then came the faint sound of breathing. Slow, heavy, coming from the top of the stairs. Her blood turned to ice. Anna grabbed the nearest thing she could find, a kitchen knife, and stepped back toward the front door. She reached for the handle, but it wouldn't move. The chain lock was on. She never used the chain lock. Tears welled in her eyes. Someone had locked it from the inside. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice breaking. No answer. Only the faint creak of another step, then another. Whoever it was, they were coming down the stairs. Anna backed away, knife shaking in her hand. She could see the faint outline of the staircase in the darkness, the shadow of a figure moving slowly down. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. Open quote, "Don't move. I'm calling the police. Just stay quiet." Close quote. Anna pressed herself against the wall, gripping the knife tighter. The figure reached the bottom of the stairs. She could barely make out its shape, tall, broad-shouldered, unmoving. Her breathing grew rapid. She blinked once, twice. And when she opened her eyes again, the figure was gone. Silence swallowed the house again. Anna didn't wait. She ran to the back door, yanked it open, and stumbled into the yard. Cold night air hit her face. She sprinted barefoot across the wet grass toward her neighbor's house. She banged on the door desperately until Mrs. Jacobs, an elderly woman, opened it in her robe. "Anna, sweetheart, what's wrong? Someone's in my house." Anna gasped, sobbing. "Please call the police." Mrs. Jacobs ushered her inside immediately and dialed 911. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights filled the street. 2 officers searched Anna's house top to bottom but found nothing. No footprints. No signs of forced entry. "Ma'am," said Officer Lane, "we didn't find anyone. But it's good you got out. You did the right thing." Anna tried to steady her breathing. "You think it's that escaped prisoner?" The officer shrugged grimly. "We don't know yet, but we'll keep patrols in the area. Don't go back there tonight." As she watched from Mrs. Jacobs' porch, the officers left, the lights fading into the distance. Anna stared at her dark house across the street. The windows looked like empty eyes staring back at her. For the first time in her life, she realized something terrifying. Home didn't feel safe anymore. Anna Miller didn't sleep that night. She sat curled on Mrs. Jacobs' couch, wrapped in a blanket, hands trembling as she stared out the window toward her dark house. The police had searched every corner and found nothing. But Anna knew what she'd heard. Those footsteps weren't her imagination. Someone had been there. By sunrise, she forced herself to go back home. The morning light made the house seem harmless again, quiet, ordinary, almost innocent. But as soon as she stepped inside, her stomach knotted. The air felt wrong, still, heavy. She looked around carefully. Everything was in its place. The broken wine glass had been cleaned up by the police, and yellow tape stretched across the front door. "Just get dressed and leave for work," she whispered to herself. Anna climbed the stairs, trying to shake the chill crawling up her spine. She reached her bedroom and stopped dead. Footprints. Muddy, dark footprints trailed across the carpet, large, boot-sized. They led from her closet to the window. Her hands shook as she knelt down. The mud was still wet. That meant whoever had been here came back after the police left. Her phone slipped from her grip. She stumbled backward, breathing hard, heart hammering so fast it hurt. Okay, think. She grabbed her phone, snapped a picture of the footprints, and ran downstairs. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped her keys twice before finally locking the door and running to her car. At work, she couldn't focus. Every noise made her jump. Every shadow made her flinch. When she finally clocked out that evening, she couldn't bring herself to go home. She called her best friend, Mark Lawson, the same friend who had texted her the night before. "Anna, you sound terrible," he said through the phone. "Someone's been in my house," she whispered. Again. "Okay, I'm coming over. Don't stay there alone tonight." "No, I'll go to you," she said quickly. "Please." Later that night, Mark's small apartment felt like a fortress. Warm light, locked doors, laughter on the TV. He tried to comfort her with bad jokes and takeout food, but Anna barely spoke. After a while, Mark turned serious. "You think it's that escaped guy, Keller?" Anna nodded. "The police think it could be, but I don't know. It feels like he's watching me, like he knows me." Mark frowned. "That's just fear talking. You're safe now." But Anna didn't feel safe. At 2:30 a.m., her phone vibrated on the nightstand. A notification, open quote, "Motion detected, living room camera, Willow Street." Close quote, her blood went cold. She sat up, grabbed her phone, and opened the live camera feed. For a few seconds, the screen was black, then static. Then, a figure moved through her living room. The man was tall, wearing a grey hoodie. His face was hidden, but he moved slowly, confidently, as if he'd been there many times before. Anna's scream ripped through the silence. Mark shot up from the couch. "What is it?" "He's there!" she gasped. "He's in my house!" Mark grabbed his phone, calling 911. Within minutes, police were on their way to Willow Street. Anna watched the live feed, tears running down her face. The man walked up the stairs, disappearing into the hallway. Then the camera flickered again and went black. "He cut the power," she whispered. When the police arrived, they found the back door forced open. But inside, once again, the man was gone. Officer Lane looked tired but concerned. "He's smart, knows when we're coming." "Do you think he's targeting me?" Anna asked. "We can't say for sure, but you're not safe here. Do you have somewhere else to stay?" Anna nodded weakly. "With my friend Mark." "Good, stay there. And Anna..." The officer hesitated. "If you notice anything strange again, even something small, call us immediately." She nodded. As the officers searched the property again, Anna walked upstairs. Everything looked normal, except for one thing. A small photo frame on her dresser had been turned backward. She frowned and picked it up. On the back, someone had written in smudged ink, "Open quote, nice smile," close quote. It was the same handwriting she'd seen once before, years ago, from an anonymous note she'd received at work. Her legs weakened. No, it can't be. She dropped the frame and ran from the house. The next day, Anna couldn't stop shaking. She barely ate. Mark tried to keep her calm, but every creak in his apartment made her flinch. "Anna," he said gently, "maybe it's time you let me stay at your place for a few nights. Whoever that is, he's after you, not me." She shook her head violently. "No, I don't want anyone else there. It's cursed." Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll go together tomorrow, just to grab your things. I'll check everything, okay?" Anna nodded reluctantly. That night, rain hammered against the windows. She couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., she heard a faint noise, a soft tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the window. She sat up, pulse racing. Slowly, she turned toward the sound. A hand was pressed against the glass, large, pale, and unmoving. Anna froze. The hand dragged downward, leaving a faint streak of condensation before disappearing into the darkness. Her phone buzzed. It was Mark, asleep on the couch in the other room. She rushed to him. "Someone's outside!" she whispered. Mark grabbed a flashlight and stormed to the window, but when he looked out, there was no one there. Just rain and shadows. He checked the hallway, the door, even the balcony. Nothing. But as they stood there in silence, lightning flashed, and for a split second Anna saw a figure standing across the street under the street lamp. A man, still, watching. Then the light flickered out, and he was gone. Anna spent the rest of the night clutching a pillow, too afraid to move. In the morning, she tried to convince herself it was her imagination. But when she looked out the window again, there was something new taped to her car windshield. A photo. It was her, standing at that same window the night before, looking terrified. Scrawled on the bottom in messy handwriting were two chilling words. Open quote, "Found you," close quote. The world outside seemed calm again. Birds chirped, sunlight pierced through grey clouds. But inside Anna's mind there was only fear. She hadn't gone home since the night she saw the photo taped to her car. The police had promised to keep watch, but she couldn't rest until she got her things and left that house forever. "Let's go in, grab your clothes and get out," said Mark, pulling his car into the driveway. His voice was steady, confident, the kind of calm Anna wished she could feel. The house looked the same as always, neat, harmless, silent. But Anna couldn't shake the thought that something inside was waiting for her. She unlocked the door, hesitating before stepping in. The air felt stale, cold. Mark entered first, scanning each room with a flashlight, even though it was daytime. "All clear so far," he said. "No one's here." Anna exhaled shakily. She walked upstairs into her bedroom, where the curtains hung half open. Dust floated in the sunbeams. It almost looked peaceful. But then, her eyes caught movement. A man stood across the street, half hidden behind a tree. He wore a grey hoodie. Her breath hitched. Mark joined her at the window, but when he looked out, the man was gone. "Could have been a trick of the light," Mark said, but his voice lacked conviction. Anna turned toward her bed and froze. Something was lying on her pillow. A Polaroid photo. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. It showed her asleep in this very bed, the blanket pulled to her chin. The photo had been taken from the corner of the room. Mark's face turned pale. "This was taken inside your house." Anna's breathing quickened. "That means he's been here while I was sleeping. He was watching me." They called Officer Lane immediately. He arrived with a small team and began searching the property again. This time they found something. Behind the closet, in the corner of her bedroom wall, one officer noticed a faint seam, a panel that didn't match the rest of the wood. He pried it open. Behind it was a crawl space no larger than a small room. The smell hit them first, musty, damp, and human. Inside were old food wrappers, a flashlight, a blanket, and something worse, a small notebook. Officer Lane flipped through it. The pages were filled with rough sketches, drawings of Anna, her cooking, sleeping, showering, each one more disturbing than the last. Lane exhaled heavily. "He's been living in your walls." Anna staggered backward. Her mind reeled. The creaks in the night, the breathing, the chain lock. He hadn't broken in. He'd never left. Mark put an arm around her shoulders, holding her as she trembled. The officers sealed the crawl space, collected the evidence, and promised to increase patrols. They also set up small surveillance cameras throughout the house, hoping to catch the intruder if he returned. Anna couldn't bring herself to stay. She went back with Mark again, trying to rest. But her sleep was shallow, haunted by dreams of someone standing over her in the dark. 2 nights later, at 3:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. She blinked groggily, then frowned. Open quote. Notification, motion detected, upstairs hallway. Close quote. Her body froze. She opened the camera app. The feed was grainy but clear enough to see a dark figure moving through the hallway, slow and silent. The man was there again. The grey hoodie. The same posture. Anna gasped. "Mark, he's back! He's in the house!" Mark shot up instantly, grabbing his phone and dialing 911. "Stay here!" But Anna was already running for the door. "Anna, wait!" Outside, the night was black and empty. They drove toward Willow Street, headlights cutting through the fog. Her hands clutched the dashboard as she watched the clock. Every second felt like an eternity. When they arrived, the front door of her house was wide open, swinging slightly in the wind. "Stay in the car," Mark said. "No way," Anna whispered. Police sirens grew louder in the distance. Mark and Anna stepped cautiously inside. The air was freezing cold. The smell of earth and mildew hung heavy. The flashlight beam danced across the living room. The furniture was untouched. No movement. Then, drip, drip, drip. They followed the sound to the kitchen. A trail of muddy footprints led toward the back door. It had been broken open. "He's gone," Mark muttered. Officer Lane arrived moments later with backup. He examined the footprints and shook his head. "They're fresh." He ran when he saw the cameras. "But he's hurt. There's blood." Anna stared at the floor. The realization hit her. He'd been watching her through the cameras too. The officers secured the property again, promising to keep it under surveillance. But Anna couldn't take it anymore. "I'm done," she said, voice breaking. "I'm selling this place. I can't live here another day." Mark nodded. "You should. Start over somewhere far away." For a while, things were quiet. A week passed, then 2. The police never caught the man in the grey hoodie, but a report came in. The escaped prisoner, John Keller, had been sighted 200 miles north. Anna finally felt a little relief. Maybe it hadn't been him at all. Maybe it was just a stranger passing through. She moved into a small apartment across town with bright windows and friendly neighbors. She started smiling again, going to work, even sleeping without nightmares. Until one evening, 3 months later, she came home from her night shift, tired but calm. The apartment was silent. She set her bag down, turned on the lights and froze. The window was open. A cold breeze moved the curtains gently, like invisible hands. On the kitchen table lay a single piece of paper. It was a note, handwritten in the same rough scrawl she'd seen on the back of her photo frame months before. Open quote. "Nice new place. Cozy." Close quote. The color drained from her face. Her knees went weak. She backed toward the door, fumbling for her phone when the lights flickered. Then, in the dim light, she saw it. A shadow moved down the hallway. Slow. Deliberate. Human. She whispered, "Please, no." The shadow stopped at the edge of the light. A figure stepped forward. It wasn't John Keller, it was Mark. End of a suffocating silence. The power remained dead, and the faint beam of Emily's flashlight danced weakly across the blood-stained walls. Her hands trembled as she gripped the knife she'd found in the kitchen, her only defense now. The old house groaned under the pressure of the storm. Somewhere above, a floorboard creaked. She wasn't alone. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Slowly, she turned toward the staircase. Each step up was a scream in her mind. Each creak beneath her feet, a heartbeat of terror. She could hear the faint rhythm of someone breathing. Calm, controlled, human. The same breathing she had heard the night before when she hid inside the closet. When she reached the top floor, the hallway was darker than she remembered. The portraits of her grandparents seemed to twist with the flicker of her flashlight, their eyes following her. She stepped carefully past the old guest room, where earlier she had found that horrifying message written on the wall in red, "You shouldn't have come back." A shadow darted past the end of the hall. Emily froze. The beam of her flashlight flickered, then died completely. She slammed it against her palm, nothing. The darkness pressed in, then came a whisper, soft and low, from the far end of the hall. Emily, her name. spoken by a voice she knew, her mother's voice. But her mother had been dead for years. Emily's heart thudded painfully. "Who's there?" she croaked. "What do you want from me?" No answer, just that slow, steady breathing. She inched forward, guided by memory rather than sight. Her fingers brushed the door to her old bedroom. She pushed it open, and the faint moonlight spilling through a cracked window revealed the small bed, the broken toys, and, in the center of the room, a figure standing perfectly still. A man. He wore her father's work coat, soaked in blood. His face was obscured by a pale mask, a face molded into an expressionless grin. In his hand, he held a hammer, dripping red. "Why are you doing this?" Emily whispered. The figure tilted his head. Then, in a voice that was eerily familiar, he said, "This house doesn't belong to you anymore." The masked man lunged. Emily screamed and dove aside, the hammer smashing into the wall where her head had been. She rolled across the floor, kicking out and knocking him backward into the nightstand. The lamp shattered, sending sparks across the carpet. Emily scrambled for the door, the man roaring behind her, his footsteps pounding closer. She bolted down the stairs, her lungs burned. She could hear him following, relentless. She reached the front door and yanked, but it wouldn't open. The old lock jammed. She turned, and there he was, standing at the bottom of the stairs, hammer raised, that blank smile fixed on her like a death sentence. Emily backed away. Her hand brushed the table by the entryway, the same table where her father used to keep his lighter. It was still there. She grabbed it. In a single desperate move, she flicked it and lit the old curtains on fire. The flames erupted, licking upward, casting orange shadows across the walls. The man paused, hesitating as the fire grew between them. "You took everything from me," Emily said, her voice trembling with both fear and rage. "But I'm not dying here." The masked man lunged again, but this time Emily ducked behind the burning curtains, using the smoke to hide. She sprinted toward the back of the house, toward the cellar, the one place she hadn't checked. She flung the door open and stumbled down the steps. The cellar was colder than before. Her flashlight flickered back to life, and what it revealed made her stomach twist. Dozens of photographs pinned to the wall, photos of her, from childhood to now. Someone had been watching her for years. There were also bones, small human bones arranged in a pattern on the dirt floor. A voice spoke behind her. "You shouldn't have come back, Emily." She turned. The masked man stood at the top of the stairs, the hammer glinting in the flickering light. His voice, it was her father's. Her heart shattered. "Dad?" He stepped into the light. The mask slipped, revealing his blood-smeared face, eyes wild. "They made me do it," he muttered, voice cracking. "The house, it talks, it makes you hear things. It told me to protect it, to keep you here." Emily's eyes widened in horror. "You killed Mom." He nodded slowly, tears cutting through the grime on his face. "I didn't want to, but now you're home. You'll stay too." Before he could swing the hammer again, Emily grabbed a broken pipe from the floor and jammed it into the gas valve. She turned it sharply. The hiss of escaping gas filled the room. She backed away, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, Dad." She flicked the lighter. The explosion tore through the house, sending flames bursting into the night sky. The roof caved in, windows shattered, and the screams of the man, her father, were swallowed by the roaring inferno. Hours later, firefighters battled the blaze, finding nothing but charred remains. But when they searched the cellar, they found something strange. A mask, perfectly intact, sitting in the ashes. Weeks later, as Emily recovered in the hospital, detectives questioned her, but she could barely remember what had happened. The only thing she could recall was her father's final words, echoing in her mind. That night, as she drifted to sleep, she thought she saw movement in the dark corner of her hospital room. A faint sound, breathing, slow, steady, familiar. Her heart froze. Then, from the darkness, a voice whispered softly, "Welcome home, Emily."